to the Steps Back to Me podcast. On this show, we talk about all things that empower you to take control of your life and win it. I'm your host, Deb J. On this podcast, we're on a mission to provide guidance, emotional support, and practical tools that will inspire you on your path to living your best life ever. Our guest on today's show is Nadja Marks-Shafton. Nadja is a BFA fine artist, professional face and body artist, coach, and creative doula. Nadja came through a 2-year divorce process, and now she is creating a new, vibrant life for herself by helping others discover their own inner creative. Here is my conversation with Nadja. Nadja, thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to have this conversation.
Well, this conversation is so timely because I just got my divorce finalized after 2 years, about 2 years of going through this process. And so I'm so fresh out the portal. Like, I'm so new out that portal, that divorce portal. And I suppose it's incredible timing to be able to talk about it right now for this podcast.
Wish I should put a little laugh track or applause track on the end of that, and flying that flag of freedom, because although for a lot of people, for a lot of us, divorce feels like such a death, such an end of, and we can get stuck in it. And if we have contention in the divorce, then it can just feel like you said, like we're stuck in the in between. And I love that you said just fresh out of the portal. And but that's a celebration, not so much of divorce, but a celebration of freedom. You've paid the price, and here you are on this side, able to appreciate the dawn of your future.
I appreciate it so much. I'm praying for this for everyone watching that's going through it, that you get through to the other side. It is so intense. It's so intense. And we didn't even have kids. We were just arguing over a house. So it's like the worst part of oneself, of myself and of his self are now fighting. Like I was in a gridlock. I'll try to speak for myself, like a stalemate for a really long time. And it was so discouraging. And I really felt like a victim. Like I felt like my victim body, my victim story was so strong, of like, he's doing this, he's doing that. And I'm a conscious person. I know that I'm having that victim story as it's running. And I'm like, okay, what else is here? So the leadership program that you and I did, it offered us an opportunity to say our story through multiple different lenses. So I actually used my divorce story as my story that I told 4 different ways. So the one way was like, this is what this guy is doing to me. It's not fair. It's very unjust. It's very clear that it's unjust. It's not fair. He's an asshole, like all that. And then the other way of saying it is being responsible for the way that it played out, and being like, I was young. I was looking for a husband. I was wanting a husband at all costs. I was saying to God, like, bring him to me. I want him to be this, this, this. Don't tell me that. I was saying this to God in Israel. I lived in Israel, and I would go to this gravesite of a Kabbalist, and I was praying, who actually, like, we share a whole story, me and this Kabbalist. So anyway, but he's dead, and I'm going to his gravesite, and I'm like, bring my husband to me. I want him to have these qualifications. Don't tell me that I'm not ready. Don't tell me that, I'm like, don't give me a single excuse. And it came, because I'm a powerful manifester. And so then very soon after I was praying like that, he shows up in my life. I'm like, this is the guy. It's amazing. It's perfect. We get married within 6 months of knowing each other. We got engaged within 1 month. And I don't even think that my ex even proposed to me. It was basically me being like, all right, I think that we're engaged. And he's like, okay. It was me running that ship, and then I told him that I had this inheritance, and he was like, awesome. So I basically put my self-worth, I was essentially dangling this carrot, like, because I didn't feel enough self-worth. I was like, oh, you're also getting this, we're getting this really exciting thing. We're going to have a house, but I never did a prenup. And so all this time, So I'm being responsible. So I did not have a prenup. I did not make him sign. He said that it was disrespectful and I went with it. I was a good wife and I was just not going to make him sign a prenup. And then post divorce, it's like I go to every single divorce lawyer's office and they're all like, "Oh yeah, that's basic. He gets half of everything." I'm like, "What?" And I've been dealing with that shock and pain point ever since for the last 2 years. So we just went through the portal on Monday, and when the judge said you are officially divorced, or however she pronounced it, after a really painful trial, it was just like this breaking free that I didn't even know that I've been in it for so long. We've been married now for 8 years, and we've been in this portal, divorce portal, for 2 years, and just like breaking free from it since she said the words. It's just a judge saying words, you know? But I'm like, oh my God, I'm divorced. Like, I'm not married to him. And now I get to start this whole new chapter of my life. So I'm telling you how I'm telling the story in multiple different ways, because now my victim story is now like my launching story. And now it's the story that launches me into the next chapter of my life, where I get to choose however I want to build my next chapter.
I love that. I love that. And I want us to break that down a little bit because I remember going through my separation and divorce and just feeling all over the place. And like you said, yes, justified. But we've learned this language of our victim story. And I want to talk a little bit about that and what exactly do you mean by victim story? And kind of give a couple examples. We'll talk about that. And then we'll go into, after we talk about that, we'll pivot and talk about how to reframe our stories for our own purpose, right? So let's
Yeah.
do that. Let's talk about what you mean when you say, you mentioned a couple times, that was my victim story. That was my victim
Yeah.
story.
So we just took our leadership course, Deb and I. And by the way, I just want to say to anyone watching, listening to this podcast, you came to such a beautiful person. I cannot recommend Deb enough. She's got such a pure heart, and I'm so glad that you're here listening to her content. And I'm just so happy, Deb, that you're starting this podcast after having this on your heart for so long. So I'm really celebrating you.
Thank you, girl. Thank you.
So a victim story is like, it's just as true as any other story that you tell, but it paints you to be the victim to another person. So here's an example. I bought the house. He does not deserve 50% of something I bought. He did not buy it. So I can convince you right now easily that I'm the victim of this crime. You know, it's
Okay.
not
So,
fair.
yeah, so to frame it, it's stories, like you said, that we tell ourselves, and they may be true, but that we basically vow to, that keeps us in a place that disempowers us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
continue.
disempowering. It feels right, like you said, it's true, it's accurate, it feels right, but essentially it gets people to pity me and to be like, wow, I'm so sorry. Like, I can't even tell you, like, I could easily convince you to be sorry for me in this case. It's a very annoying situation, and it's brought me a ton of stress and pain and all that stuff. And I could also paint the same picture to be like, this has been the greatest lesson of my life. And by the way, you don't have to force this on yourself if you're in like the crux of the pain, because that's just annoying. I don't want to like bypass what you're going through. For everyone that's in the crux of it, like, that's a very real place to go through. And I went through those like pits of despair. That's also real. So it's like, we're not bypassing that. But at some point I realized that it's disempowering to me to paint myself as this poor, sad, helpless victim of a crime, when I can actually be like, I can, as they say, take your power back. I can take my power back and be like, I just paid for a PhD in scarcity. I just paid for a PhD in life lessons and contracts and not being dumb. Like, I paid a lot of money to learn lessons that my soul really, really needed to learn, because I was just a little baby. I was just a little baby bunny. And I was like, bouncing around in a meadow. And I'm like, I'm not thinking about contracts. I don't think it's important. And now it's like, oh, everyone that I'm going to be with that I create something in partnership with, whether it's a child with someone, whether it's buying a house together, we will 100% have a contract, because to not have a contract is silly and ridiculous. So, and it's only because the worst part of yourself comes out when you're going through a divorce. Like literally the worst part of yourself. You're no longer in love and like seeing each other through the wedding eyes or the honeymoon eyes or the, middle of the marriage eyes. Like now you're against each other to the point where you actually kind of want to kill the other person because they're disturbing your future so badly. So
Right.
it's taking back the power to be like, I chose this lesson. I paid a lot for this lesson, but I needed this lesson. So it's actually really extraordinary that I got this lesson, and now I can be in the gratitude of it. And that's come after 2 years of processing, like true scarcity, like bottom of the barrel scarcity. And it's like I wouldn't have ever wanted to get to that level of scarcity, but now that I have, I can see that it's really helped me to see that my that I didn't die, that my bank account got so low that I didn't die. And now I have a very different relationship to no money. Now I'm like, all right, I'm safe here. I'm secure here. And these are lessons I needed to learn in my life.
Right. And that's the empowerment side of it. I am going to backtrack just a little bit. There are a few things you said that may not necessarily be clear. You mentioned scarcity. And what you mentioned, what you're talking about is a mindset that ends up making us feel paralyzed in
Yes.
that, oh, I don't have money. I don't know. And it doesn't always show up the same way it did for you. Everybody has their unique experience. So it could be, I was a stay-at-home mom for years and my husband was the one who was working. And now I don't know how I'm going to make enough money to protect my future or to have a future. And he
Right.
is off, blah, blah, blah. These are the stories we tell ourselves that keeps us feeling vindicated, but it also keeps us powerless. And so that's the challenge. The challenge is to do something or to think differently than you would normally think. It's not almost, it's counterculture to
Yeah.
really be 100% responsible for the choices you've made in your past.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
and so it's great that you're mentioning that but that being stuck in victim mode may feel comforting and you may get used to that being uncomfortable or being comfortable in your uncomfortableness, but it's so freeing when you can move beyond that and reframe how you see your world.
Yeah.
So let's now pivot. And you were talking about telling the story a different way. Let's
Yeah.
go back and revisit that again. That the same circumstances you have, that you're able to smile and say, yes, I am divorced. It felt like, like a death because it was the death of that era. But here is this vista that's opened in front of me. And
Yeah.
I've paid whatever price, whether monetary or whatever else you've paid for this the price of your freedom. That was the price of your freedom.
Yeah. And you know
So
how
let's
they
talk a
say, do
little
you
bit
want to
about
be right? You know how they say, do you want to be right or do you want to be free?
that.
There's certain times in one's life where you actually face that. You face that question. I faced that question of like, do I want to be right or do I want to be free? And for a long time during that portal that I was just in, I wanted to be right. Even
Yeah.
during the trial itself, I so wanted to be right. I so wanted to be vindicated and liberated, and like I wanted the 3D reality to represent the justice that I believed was necessary. And I wouldn't say that it happened. Um, but that question, do I want to be right or do I want to be free? I can tell you the freedom is feeling pretty luxurious right now.
Yes, I can relate to that so much. I remember going through my separation and divorce, and my husband there was this tax bill that it was obvious he had cashed in his 401(k). I didn't know anything about it. And now there was this tax bill that I was half responsible for, but he hadn't paid it. And I was locked into that. And I just thought it was so unfair, right? And I did all the things to try to get out of it. And in the end, it was like, no, you are responsible for it. And I ended up paying that bill because it freed me.
Yeah.
Right. It freed me to move on to do other things. And in the moment, like you said, I just thought it was just, oh, I can't believe it's so unfair. Why wouldn't you take responsibility? Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you be responsible for your part? But the freedom that came from that, 5 years after separating, 3 years after divorce, I was able to purchase my own house.
Wow.
Right? Because when you change your perspective, it makes a huge difference in
Yeah.
not in your life. It's not
Yeah.
just quote letting the other person off the hook, it's freeing yourself.
That's right.
That's an amazing. I'm so glad you shared that. And I will say boldly, congratulations on the end of that chapter.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's next for you? This is part of what we share on this, the excitement. And I'm sure
Yeah.
I know you've already started walking into your future, but share with us some of that excitement. What's in that new vibrant future of yours?
Well, we also just graduated from the leadership program. So it's like the two of them coinciding just within 2 days of each other. Like it was Friday and Monday. So, just the weekend between and the whole weekend I was preparing for the trial. So, um, it's kind of this moment of like, whoa, I just finished a really massive leadership program with you, and I just finished a really massive marriage like fixing of my soul and my humanity like on so many levels. So what's next for me is there's an unapologetic um easeful claiming of my value and my like worth or my value or you know the things that people say to you that you're really good at, like wow, you're so good at holding space, you're so good at listening, you're so whatever, all those things. um, I'm valuing that. I'm actually going to be valuing that and um, creating from that place of like claiming that yes, I am good at. I'm a great creative doula, and I'm really great at leading people on journeys into themselves, deep deep into themselves to ignite their soul esteem. And so all these things that I've been like, well, I'm not that, am I, just like that inner critic. Now I'm actually just acknowledging it and I'm creating from that space. So I'm creating offers and I'm putting them out there, and I'm going to be sharing my art, which I've been so hidden about my art. For some reason, I've had all these resistances to just sharing my art, which is
So
the very thing.
inspiring. Your art is so inspiring.
And so I thank you. And so this is an exact, we're in real time. I'm hearing you say that. And instead of being like, well, thank you, I'm like, okay, I hear you. I will share it, rather than like, I'm going to keep hiding it. It's like, I hear you. I will share it. I hear you. I will share it. So I'm being a humble servant right now. And I am wanting to create not from a money hungry, like scarcity place, but of like a really joyful, ignited, creation space of like it's not coming from scarcity, it's coming from abundance, it's coming from joy, and it's coming from liberation. So now I'm creating from like a liberated leadership.
That is fabulous. And that is what is available to all of us. You know how on Mission Impossible, the music plays and the voice says, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is. And
Yeah.
so for all of us, our mission, if we choose to accept it, is freedom on the other side. It's letting go of the things that cause us to be angry and bitter and shriveled up in our
Yeah.
souls. And when you free other people, whether that's business relationships or friendships or exes, when you release those people, you free them, you free yourself, and you have the opportunity to create joy, peace, love, vibrancy, uh, abundance, freedom, transformation, all the things that we truly want we don't realize a lot of times that we're the ones keeping the lock on that door, that if we open it, we will allow so much abundance into our lives.
I'm hearing this story. I'm hearing the song from Taylor Swift. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Do you know that song?
Yeah, I've heard it.
Yeah, it's so true. And I just want to say, like, because I do deal in these realms of like people being like, I'm the problem. And it's a tricky realm because the more you think you're the problem, the more it's like a Chinese finger trap where you can't get out of it. So it's actually being like, I'm not a problem. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm learning. I'm going step by step and giving enormous compassion to the self, which is so hard because so many of us are just really beating ourselves up. But at some point, realizing that that self beat up is actually just not efficient or effective. Like, it doesn't actually, like, if you're going on a date with someone and they just start beating you up on the date and you're a normal, untraumatized person, like, you're not going to want to go out with that person again.
Right, right.
Um, so, so too, if we talk to ourselves with compassion, radical, I call it radical compassion because it's like, I don't want to douse myself in compassion when I actually think that I deserve to not, have it. But I just know that I will not open up. I will not change myself and change my life if I'm not speaking to myself with compassion. I'm going to close down and go into self-loathing, if I do that.
Yes, and that is one of the biggest and basic lessons that I want us to really share with people. Be kind to yourself. As we as women need to learn to be as nice and nicer to ourselves than we are to others,
Yeah.
right? I think about myself as, little Debbie, right? The little Debbie snack cake. And you have that little girl inside of you that is desperate for love, and you are the closest one to her. Love her, right? Be the kind-hearted angel to that little girl inside of you, and you can contribute even more to that by freeing other people,
Yeah.
by freeing yourself, by forgive. I tend not to bring the word forgiveness up because it has become so
Yeah.
cliche, but the what do I want to say? The essence of freedom is really what I want to get to. And I think
Yeah.
freedom is that, forgiveness is that door to freedom.
Yeah.
But the word forgiveness is often misunderstood. It's used to beat people over the head a lot of time.
Right.
Why aren't you over this yet? So I think more in terms of freedom. What is your freedom worth? Right? Being kind to yourself is a cost, but it is cost that pays dividends.
Yeah.
So
I
that
I've been hearing this phrase in my head ever since the leadership. Well, before this, I have a painting about it. I have a painting about it. It's somewhere right behind me, but it says, "I am the light of the world. That is my only function. I am the light of the world, and that's my only function." And remembering that for as hard as we are on ourselves, we're not actually seeing the fullness of who we are. We are actually the light of the world. We are absolute, exquisite, beautiful lights. And when we're in self beat up, we're essentially kind of passing on generational trauma because we're only talking to ourselves like that because of the society that we're raised in, the water that is contaminated that we are growing up in, and the family structures and the families of the families that are around us, like it just keeps going. So that self beat up is normalized and we're just like used to it. But
yeah,
we're not seeing the wholeness of ourselves, which the wholeness of ourselves is that we're the light of the world and that's our only function. So how do you talk to someone who's the light of the world? Are you gonna like how do you talk to a queen? How do you talk to a queen? You don't just say like, I can't believe that you're still doing this. Like you've been doing this for 8 years. You're always going to be doing. Is that how you talk to a queen? No, she's not going to stand for that. So we get to have
right,
different standards for our self talk, where it's like, okay, speak to yourself with respect, and
right,
maybe recruit a persona inside of our being that's like, do not talk to yourself like that. Maybe there's not only an inner critic, but an inner like advocate who's like,
Yes.
absolutely no, no more. You do not get to talk like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also recruit friends, people around you. I have girlfriends who says to me all the time, nope, well, not now, but have said, I think I've grown in that self-talk a little bit. But even now, when I backslide into being unkind to myself, I sometimes I get a text back saying, oh, no, don't talk to my friend. Don't talk about my friend that way. It's like a reminder or a trigger to remind us to be kind to ourselves first.
I
So
said that to
it's
someone
just,
in the container. I said that to someone in leadership. She was saying how she's an old bird. I was like, don't talk to my friend like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I really would like us to continue this conversation because I want to talk about your art and what you do to help women, right? Or people in general to help, people. I like the way you say it is you are what did you call it? An art,
Creative doula. A
a
creative
creative
doula.
doula. That
Yeah.
that is an amazing name. And I want to talk some more when we talk next time about
Cool.
what that actually means. Actually, give us an introduction right now. Tell us
Okay.
what that means.
Okay. So, when I say everyone has an inner artist, I'm referring to we all start off as artists. Picasso says this. A lot of thinkers of our world have said we all start off as an artist, but then someone along the line told us that we're not. That we can't sing. That drawing does not look like a tree. Like we just start getting told, oh, I'm not creative. I don't have creative sovereignty and I'm basically not special. Other people are artists, other people are special. We just get that downloaded into our child mind. And I've been an art teacher for children, so I see when it starts to, you know, um, imprint into the brain. So as a creative doula, I see my responsibility, I see my superpower as having X-ray vision to see someone's specialness, to see someone's creative soul esteem or their sovereignty or their creative agency. These are just different words to say the same thing, that
Mhm.
they are special, magical light of the world. They're exquisite, creative beings. Not everyone is a painter like I am. Everyone's inner artist is calling to some kind of thing. Maybe your inner artist is like, I want to make a podcast. And maybe your inner artist is like, let the adult do the podcast. I want to draw with markers every morning for 10 minutes. So I'm here to have X-ray vision on each person's inner artist. And that's what my summit was about. It was called You Are an Artist, permission to create what you truly want. So it's giving permission that we get to create based on that inner child, that inner artist inside of us, who actually is incredibly wise, incredibly ancient, knows way more than we think. Like when you tap that fountain of youth inside that I call an inner artist, it changes one's whole life. I've had clients who are like, wait, I am living in a house that does not reflect me at all, does not reflect my decision making, does not reflect my inner artist. So I'm moving, and she moved to this ranch, like surrounded by grass, like 5 acres, and on a cabin, and she's been renovating it. And she's like, this is my home. This is where my inner artist has a home, and she made a vision board about it. So it's kind of shifting everything. It's like your wardrobe can change if you want. Your wardrobe can change. The tiles in your kitchen can change. Like everything can change because your inner artist is this fountain of vitality and wisdom and creativity and joy. And it really activates people's whole entire life where they just thought that they were like an adult with a job, but now it's like they're vibrant and vital and alive um and creative.
That is exciting. That's amazing. And that's the vision we should all have for ourselves. Let's rediscover who we really are and walk in that. Nadja, thank you so much for joining us on Steps Back to Me podcast today. And like I said, we will have more conversations. It may not be in podcast form, it might be. We may do some collaborations together and get a chance to figure out who the creative artists in all of us is. So again, thanks, Nadja.
Thank you, Deb, so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on another powerful episode of the Steps Back to Me podcast. We hope you found inspiration and insights that will light your path on your journey of healing and self-discovery. And as we wrap up, always remember your story is a tapestry of strength, resilience, and hope. No matter where you are in your journey, you have the power to reclaim, reinvent, and recalibrate your life. Until next time, keep taking those steps back to the authentic you. Stay strong, stay inspired, and keep shining your light. I'm Deb J. Goodbye for now and see you on the next episode of Steps Back to Me.